is True Refuge. And during his talk last night, John emphasized that the Dhamma is not something we just learn and study and follow and believe. We must apply it because it's verified by direct experience. Last night he said, look for the Dhamma in your practice in order to extricate yourself from the feedback loop. So when we extricate ourselves from the feedback loop, we experience true refuge. Now this sutta is chock full of ways to apply the Dhamma. It's also very long. So what I've done is I'm going to read it, and then after each section I'm going to summarize it so that I can hopefully give you something to take away and apply to your practice throughout retreat. And if I go too fast, slow me down. And if I go too slow and you need a break, please speak up. There was something else I wanted to say. I don't remember what it was, but okay. So in this sutta, which I gotta go back up to the top to remember how to say it, Ariyapariyesana Sutta, the Buddha is teaching a group of seasoned monks who are well-focused and have deep understanding when he presents the sutta. But in the sutta, he's talking about the years and the months and the days leading up to his awakening. And then after that, after his awakening, like the brief period right after his awakening, and he's kind of trying to figure out if he's going to start teaching, and then he does start teaching. So it kind of reads like a Quentin Tarantino movie where the timeline like jumps around. But I'm going to hopefully make it a little bit easier to follow. And he's telling these monks who already know what to hold in mind, what he was mindful of during his journey to awakening, so that they and you can hold the same thing in mind. So the Buddha's words. On one occasion, the Buddha was in Savatthi in Jeta's Grove, Anapindika's monastery. He adjusted his robes and taking his alms bowl, he left for town for his daily meal. A large group of monks approached Ananda. It's been a long time since we heard a Dhamma talk from the great teacher. It would be for our long-term benefit to hear a Dhamma talk from the awakened one. Venerable ones, perhaps if you went to the hermitage of Ramaka, you will get to listen to a Dhamma talk from the Buddha. We will do as you say, Venerable Ananda. The Buddha returned from alms and asked Ananda to accompany him to the Eastern Park and the palace of Megara's mother for the day's abiding. Then, having spent the day in seclusion, the Buddha asked Ananda to accompany him to the Eastern Gatehouse to bathe. Having bathed, Ananda said to his teacher, "The hermitage of Ramaka is nearby. It is pleasant and delightful. There are many there waiting for your teaching. It would be of benefit to them if, out of sympathy, you were to go there." The Buddha agreed, and they left for the Ramaka's hermitage. As they approached, they heard a Dhamma discussion underway. The Buddha waited for the discussion to end. Hearing silence, he cleared his throat and knocked to announce his arrival. Upon entering, he sat on a prepared seat and addressed the Sangha. "For what discussion were you all gathered here?" "Great teacher, we were discussing you, and then you arrived." "Good. It is fitting that you have gone forth from families, from home to homelessness, and gather for Dhamma discussion. When you gather as a Sangha, you should always discuss the Dhamma or practice noble silence." So in providing the setting in the sutta, it highlights that the Buddha was a human being. He's behaving appropriately. He needs to eat, bathe, dress, discuss, plan, journey, just like other ordinary humans. And when he addresses the group, he praises their right speech and points out that these practitioners are engaged to remind them, to bring their minds into setting that intention for themselves. So virtual high fives for all of you for being engaged and coming together as a Sangha to discuss the Dhamma. Okay, the Buddha's words. Friends, there are two types of searching for understanding. There is ignoble searching and noble searching. What is ignoble searching? Ignoble searching occurs when a person, subject to birth, seeks happiness in what is also subject to birth. Ignoble searching occurs when a person, subject to sickness, seeks happiness in what is also subject to sickness. Ignoble searching occurs when a person subject to aging seeks happiness in what is also subject to aging. Ignoble searching occurs when a person subject to death seeks happiness in what is also subject to death. Ignoble searching occurs when a person subject to sorrow, regret, pain, distress, despair, to greed, to aversion, to delusion, seeks happiness in what is also subject to sorrow, regret, pain, distress, despair, to greed, to aversion, and to delusion. So what he's saying here is, if you seek happiness in things that are impermanent, you will suffer. So that's the 3 marks of existence. This is what he's urging us to understand here. So anatta, or the ego self, or self-centered thoughts that are framed by me, myself, mine, they're all impermanent. Yet we use those thoughts and those views to further define ourselves and seek happiness through this lens of the impermanent needs and wants of this moment. And that causes suffering. And that's what he's pointing out here. The Buddha's words. What is subject to birth? Spouses and children are subject to birth. Men and women, slaves are subject to birth. Animals of all types are subject to birth. Gold and silver are subject to birth. When these are seen as acquisitions, one becomes attached and infatuated with these acquisitions. Seeking happiness with what is subject to birth is an ignoble search. Likewise, these are all subject to sickness, aging, death, sorrow, regret, pain, distress, despair, to greed, to aversion, to delusion. Seeking happiness with what is subject to sorrow, regret, pain, distress, despair, to greed, to aversion, to delusion is ignoble searching. So subject to birth in this context is referring to anything that's impermanent. And so when viewed through the lens of ignorance, or the ego self, it causes suffering. If we mentally seek impermanent stuff or people or ideas, or we seek to find happiness in those things, then we suffer. It doesn't mean we need to renounce all the people and stuff in our life that makes us happy. We need to not mentally seek happiness in those things. That's clinging. And that kind of seeking is ignoble seeking, or grasping, or craving and clinging. So what is noble searching? Here's the good part. Noble searching is, while being subject to birth, seeking to understand the suffering of birth, seeking the unborn and unexcelled release of the yoke, the unbinding. This is noble searching. Noble searching is, while being subject to sickness, aging, death, sorrow, regret, pain, distress, despair, greed, aversion, delusion, seeking what is free of sickness, aging, death, free of sorrow, regret, pain, distress, despair, free of greed, aversion, and delusion. This is noble searching. Noble searching is seeking the unexcelled release of the yoke, the unbinding. This is noble searching. Okay, so just to paraphrase, well, actually, this is a little longer than a paraphrase, but I think it's helpful. There's 3 kinds of concepts there that he mentions for what is noble searching. Seeking to understand deeply that the ego self, when it seeks impermanent phenomena, that causes suffering or stress. So that's the 3 marks of existence. So seek to understand the 4 noble truths. And just as a reminder, dukkha occurs. Clinging and craving causes and exacerbates stress. And cessation of stress is possible. The Noble Eightfold Path develops the cessation of stress. So that first one is seek to understand suffering. That's the kind of the little nugget. Second thing is seek what is free of suffering. So what's free of suffering? Jhana. Okay. So you want to practice the 4 foundations of mindfulness, putting mindfulness on the breath arising and passing away, feelings arising and passing away, thoughts arising and passing away, and the overall state of mind arising and passing away. And when we practice jhana, we experience unbinding or release. So unbinding or release from the yoke is experiencing the cessation of suffering. So the three things are: seek to understand suffering, understand the Four Noble Truths, understand ignorance and the three marks of existence. Seek what is free of suffering, do jhana. And seek to experience the cessation of suffering, or seek unbinding. Friends, back to the Buddha's words. Before my self-awakening, when I was still an unawakened bodhisattva, being subject to birth, to sickness, to aging, to death, to sorrow, regret, pain, distress, despair, to greed, to aversion, to delusion, I was seeking happiness with what is subject to birth, to sickness, to aging, to death, to sorrow, regret, pain, distress, despair, to greed, to aversion, to delusion. Then the thought occurred to me, why do I, being subject myself to birth, to sickness, to aging, to death, to sorrow, regret, pain, distress, despair, to greed, to aversion, to delusion, seek what is likewise subject to birth, sickness, etc.? What if I, being subject to birth, were to seek understanding the suffering of birth, seeking the unborn and the unexcelled release of the yoke, the unbinding? What if I, being subject to sickness, aging, death, etc., were to seek understanding of the suffering of sickness, aging, death? What if I were to seek the unborn and the unexcelled release of the yoke, the unbinding? So again, here, this is before the Buddha awakened. He knew what the problem was. The problem was that he was seeking happiness in the impermanent, which was causing him suffering. And he knew he should be seeking to understand suffering at its root, so understanding ignorance. And he also knew that he was doing that to experience unbinding. So unbinding is release from the mental process of seeking happiness in impermanence. Now, he hadn't done it yet, and he didn't have a method for it like we do now, but he knew what to hold in mind, and this is why it's helpful for us. Seek to understand suffering, seek what is free of suffering, seek unbinding. So he's holding that in mind. And spoiler alert, he does it. So we can too. But he hasn't done it yet, not in this story. So I'm back to the Buddha's words. Okay, so at a later time, while still a young man, black-haired, early in life, my parents crying, I shaved off my hair, put on a robe made of rags, and went forth from home to homelessness. Having gone forth seeking understanding of these things, seeking what is skillful, seeking unexcelled and lasting peace, I went to Alara Kalama. On arrival, I said to him, "Friend Alara, I want to practice your Dharma and discipline, to become your disciple." Alara said to me, "You may stay. My Dharma is such that an observant person can soon understand and integrate my knowledge and realize it for themselves through their own direct knowledge." From reciting and repetition, I quickly learned his Dharma. I could affirm that I knew his Dharma. I thought that it is not through the mere conviction that Alara Kalama declares that I understand and have integrated his Dharma and realized it for myself through direct knowledge. Alara Kalama certainly understands and has integrated his Dharma. So I went to Alara and I asked him, "What is the culmination of your understanding and integration of this Dharma?" Alara declared that the culmination of this Dharma was the dimension of nothingness. Then I thought, not only does Alara Kalama have conviction, persistence, mindfulness, concentration, and discernment, I also have conviction, persistence, mindfulness, concentration, and discernment. What if I were to strive to realize for myself this Dharma through direct knowledge? I quickly developed understanding and fully integrated Alara Kalama's Dharma, having realized it for myself, the dimension of nothingness, through direct knowledge. I then asked Alara if this was the culmination of his understanding and integration of his Dharma. Alara told me this was the culmination of his understanding and integration of his Dharma. He then said that it was a great gain for his Sangha to have a companion such as myself in their Sangha. He then asked me to lead their Sangha together. Alara Kalama, my teacher, placed me on the same level as himself, paying me great honor. So he's holding in mind his unbinding, which hasn't happened yet. He's holding in mind that he is seeking to understand suffering. So he goes to Alara Kalama, who's a big time teacher at the time. And Alara Kalama teaches him his Dharma, and great things happen. He realizes the dimension of nothingness through direct knowledge. And he's praised by his teacher and asked to join teaching him. That's awesome. But he's holding in mind what he's supposed to be doing. And this is not it. He's still suffering. He hasn't experienced unbinding. He doesn't understand suffering. He does know that he doesn't know it. And he knows that that he has mindfulness, he has persistence, concentration, and discernment. So we see this example in ourselves as our practice deepens. We become more certain of how to proceed with practice. We become more focused on the purpose of practice, which is unbinding. And we become more self-assured about what to think about and what to let go of. And here he has certainty about his own persistence and concentration, but he does not have certainty about his own awakening or his unbinding or his deep understanding of suffering. And you can hear it in this next part. So the Buddha's words. But I had the thought that this Dharma does not lead to disenchantment, to dispassion, to cessation, to stilling, to direct knowledge, to self-awakening, or to unbinding. This Dharma only seeks to establish a reappearance in the dimension of nothingness. I found this Dharma unsatisfactory, and so I left Alara Kalama and continued the noble search. So he does not have certainty for these reasons. Alara Kalama's practice did not lead to disenchantment or dispassion. And he had not experienced cessation, stilling, direct knowledge, self-awakening, or unbinding. So in this next part, he goes to a second teacher, big-time teacher, Uddaka Ramupada. And he goes through essentially the same process that he went through with Alara. And he integrates Uddaka's Dharma, and he realizes the culmination of Uddaka's Dharma, which is to establish himself in the field of perception and non-perception. And Uddaka asks him to join his Sangha and to teach with him. And the same thing happens. He realizes that this does not lead to dispassion, cessation, stilling, or direct knowledge, or lasting peace. And so he leaves. And I'm going to skip over that one little part. You guys can read it on your own. So if you're reading along with me, I'm down to seeking the unexcelled peace. Oh, and by the way, I forgot to mention I'm skipping over John's commentary. If you're trying to read along, that's what I wanted to say in the beginning. Okay, so this is after he's left Uddaka, and he's continuing his noble search. Seeking the unexcelled peace arising from skillful understanding, I wandered through the Magadhan country and arrived in Uruvela. This place was delightful, with inspiring forests, a clear flowing river with shallow banks, and nearby villages for alms. This seemed just right for Jhana. Friends, being subject to birth, to sickness, to aging, to death, to sorrow, regret, pain, distress, despair, to greed, to aversion, to delusion, I realized the unborn and the unexcelled release of the yoke, the unbinding. Knowledge and vision arose in me. Unprovoked is my release. This is the last birth. There is no further becoming. So here's my words now. So he was suffering, he was seeking to understand suffering, and he applied the practice of Jhana to do it. He sat in a quiet place, and while simultaneously mindfully seeking understanding of suffering, he sat in Jhana. And he observed his breath arising and passing away, his feelings arising and passing away, his thoughts arising and passing away, and his overall state of mind arising and passing away. And he experienced unbinding, and he was certain of it. He experienced awakened right view. He deeply and profoundly understood the suffering of stress, the origination of stress, the cessation of stress, and the path leading to the cessation of stress. So this is our takeaway. This is how we practice. This is an assignment. Do jhana. Observe the breath arise and pass away. Observe feelings arise and pass away. Observe thoughts arise and pass away. Observe the overall quality of mind arise and pass away. And hold in mind the intention to experience unbinding. But just notice it. Notice if you experience the resolution of fabrications or disenchantment or dispassion or cessation or stilling, and then return your mindfulness to your breath. Okay, so the next part of the story, the Buddha deliberates over whether or not to teach his Dharma. Then he decides he will. Then he thinks about who he's going to teach it to. Then there's some more deliberation, and it's valuable. I think it's valuable because you see an example of like awakened thought process, awakened deliberation. And there's no I-making in it, but there's still thinking things through. So I'm just going to read it, and I'm going to try to go slow. I'm going to try to not go too fast. And I'm going to urge you to go back over it and read it. I am going to skip over John's commentary. And then at the end, I'll do some more talking about it. Then I had the thought, this Dhamma that I have attained is deep, hard to see, and hard to realize. This Dhamma is peaceful, refined, and beyond mere conjecture. This Dhamma is subtle and is to be directly experienced by the wise. But the world delights in attachment, is excited by attachment, is devoted to attachment, and worships attachment. For a world delighting in attachment, excited by attachment, devoted to attachment, worshiping attachment, conditioned towards self-identification from dependence on ignorance, this Dhamma is hard to see. The awakened state is also hard to realize. The awakened state is resolution of all fabrications, the relinquishment of all acquisitions, the ending of craving, the development of dispassion, the development of cessation, the development of unbinding. If I were to teach the Dhamma and others would not understand me, that would be tiresome for me, troublesome for me. Just then, this realization, never known before, occurred to me. I'll dismiss teaching that which only with great difficulty I attained. This Dhamma is not easily recognized by those overcome by greed, aversion, and delusion. This Dhamma is difficult to understand, subtle, deep, contrary to common belief. Those delighting in passion, their minds obscured in darkness, will not understand. Then Brahma Sahampati became aware of my thoughts. The world is lost, destroyed. The Arahant, the rightly self-awakened one, is inclined to dwelling in ease and not teaching his Dhamma. Brahma Sahampati left his realm and came to me. He knelt on one knee, bowed, and said, rightly self-awakened one, please teach your Dhamma. Please teach your Dhamma. There are those with just a little dust in their eyes. They are suffering because they will not hear your Dhamma. There are those that are able to understand your Dhamma. Brahma Sahampati continued, in the past, there appeared among the Magadhans an impure Dhamma devised by the ignorant. Teach your Dhamma to end the pain of birth, sickness, aging, and death. Teach your Dhamma to end sorrow, regret, distress, despair, to end greed, aversion, and delusion. Teach your Dhamma so they can also realize the unborn and the unexcelled release of the yoke, the unbinding. Just as one standing on a high peak might see people below, you, the wise one with profound vision, must take your place in the palace of the Dhamma, free from suffering. Look on those suffering, oppressed with birth and aging. You have conquered ignorance. Be a great teacher and wander without entanglements. Teach your Dhamma. There will be those who will understand. Mindful of Sahampati's plea and out of compassion for all beings, from my awakened state, I looked out onto the world. I saw beings with a little dust in their eyes and beings with much. I saw uncluttered beings and dull beings. I saw beings with good qualities and beings with bad qualities. I looked out onto the world and I saw beings hardened in their views, disgraced in danger. I looked out onto the world and I saw those who would be easy to teach my understanding, my right view. It is as if a pond is permeated with red, white, and blue lotus, born and growing immersed in the water. They flourish. permeated with cool water from their roots to their tips, never standing above the surface. Even so, some might rise up and emerge from the murky water. Seeing thus, I decided to teach my Dhamma, to open to the world the path to cessation. Those with eyes to see and ears to hear could come forth in my conviction, or in conviction. Those lacking the eyes to see or ears to hear the pure Dhamma, I would not teach my refined and pure Dhamma. I would teach the pure Dhamma tirelessly and untroubled. Brahma Sahampati was pleased, he bowed and disappeared. So this was all his deliberation. And there was the metaphor of the Brahma visiting him, but it's a metaphor for him thinking through whether or not to teach this Dhamma. And of course, as he's thinking that through, it occurs to him that there's going to be individuals who don't understand and that might be troublesome to him. That's just one of the first noble truths. Dukkha occurs. But there also are folks who will understand. So of course he's going to teach it. Then the thought occurred to me, who should I first teach the Dhamma to? Who will quickly understand? I thought of Alara Kalama, wise, intelligent, competent, but I heard he had passed a week ago. I thought, what a great loss it was to my friend Alara. He would have quickly learned my Dhamma. Then I thought of Uddaka Ramupada. He too is wise, intelligent, and competent, but I heard he passed just last night. It was a great loss to my friend Uddaka as well. He too would have quickly learned my Dhamma. I then thought of the 5 friends I wandered with while attending to ascetic practices. I knew they were in the deer park at Isipatana. I took my leave to wander in stages to Isipatana. Along the way, I encountered Upaka, the Ajivaka. He noticed my composure, my complexion bright. He inquired, on whose account have you gone forth? Who is your teacher? In whose Dhamma do you delight? I told Upaka, I have left the world behind through my own understanding. I am released from all wrong views, from all phenomena. Empty of ignorance, I am free of craving. My realization is taught by none. To whom should I declare as my teacher? I have no teacher, as one like me cannot be found. I have no counterpart, for I am an arahant in the world. I am the unexcelled teacher, rightly self-awakened. The fires of passion are cooled. I am unbound. I will set the wheel of the true Dhamma rolling. I am traveling to Kasi. In a world afflicted with the darkness of ignorance, I beat the drum of wisdom. Uddaka replied, from what you claim, you must be the ultimate conqueror. Conquerors like me have abandoned greed, aversion, and delusion. I have conquered all evil qualities. You are correct, Upaka. I am a conqueror. Upaka, unconvinced, shaking his head, took his leave. I continued to Deer Park from afar. My 5 friends saw me. I was no longer gaunt from ascetic self-denial. Thinking that I was living luxuriously, they decided to not show me respect. As I approached, they noticed my awakened state. Standing in respect, they took my robe and bowl and prepared a seat. One of my friends took a bowl and began to wash my feet. They, however, addressed me by my familiar name. Friends, do not address the Tathagata, a rightly self-awakened one, in this way. I am rightly self-awakened, a worthy one. Listen carefully, my friends. I have realized the unborn and the unexcelled release of the yoke, the unbinding. I will teach you my understanding. Practice as I instruct you, and shortly you will also realize the unborn and the unexcelled release of the yoke, the unbinding. The group of 5 replied, I just want to stop here and just remind you that he's telling this story to a group of seasoned monks, okay? So the group of 5 replied, from your practice of the austerities, you did not attain any superior state or any higher knowledge or vision worthy of a noble one. How can you now, living luxuriously, straying from your exertion and backsliding into abundance, have attained any superior state or any higher knowledge or vision worthy of a noble one? I replied, the Tathagata is not living luxuriously or strayed from exertion or backslid into abundance. The Tathagata is a worthy one, rightly self-awakened. Listen carefully. I have realized the unborn and the unexcelled release of the yoke, the unbinding. I will teach you my understanding. Practice as I instruct you, and shortly you will also realize the unborn and the unexcelled release of the yoke, the unbinding, for yourselves, right here, right now. A second and third time, they doubted me and questioned me in the same manner. I then asked them, have I ever claimed to be a rightly self-awakened one before? You have never claimed before to be a rightly self-awakened one. I replied again, the Tathagata is not living luxuriously or strayed from his exertion or backslid into abundance. The Tathagata is a worthy one, rightly self-awakened. Listen carefully. I have realized the unborn and the unexcelled release of the yoke, the unbinding. I will teach you my understanding. Practice as I instruct you, and shortly you will also realize the unborn and unexcelled release of the yoke, the unbinding, for yourself right here, right now. And so I convinced them of my knowledge and wisdom. Over time, living on alms, I instructed the group of 5. Being subject themselves to birth, to sickness, to aging, to death, to sorrow, regret, pain, distress, despair, to greed, to aversion, to delusion, and understanding the suffering of birth, of sickness, of aging, of death, of sorrow, regret, pain, distress, despair, of greed, of aversion, of delusion, they attained the unborn and the unexcelled release of the yoke, the unbinding. So, just to summarize what happened there, in case you tuned out for just a sec. So he decides to teach his 5 friends, and initially they don't believe him. They don't believe that he's awakened. And 4 times he says, practice as I instruct you and you will experience unbinding. Because he knows the human mind so well. And he understands that listening carefully is not an easy thing, even for his friends who are practiced in meditation. And instead of getting caught up in the frustration of that or becoming proud or demanding in nature, he just keeps reiterating because he knows that eventually they'll get it because they have that little speck of dust in their eyes. That's what John does too. Okay, the Buddha's words. Friends, craving and clinging arises from the 5 senses. Forms known from the eye, agreeable, pleasing, enticing, enchanting, are linked to sensual desire. Sounds from the ear, agreeable, pleasing, enticing, enchanting, are linked to sensual desire. Aromas from the nose, agreeable, pleasing, enticing, enchanting, are linked to sensual desire. Tastes from the tongue, agreeable, pleasing, enticing, enchanting, are linked to sensual desire. Tactile sensations known from the body, agreeable, pleasing, enticing, enchanting, are linked to sensual desire. This is the craving and clinging that arises from the 5 senses. So this goes back to what he said in the beginning. Ignoble searching is seeking happiness in impermanent things. Seeking happiness in impermanent phenomena is craving and clinging. So this is something that Trevor touched upon last night. He was talking about the environment and how we define ourselves with the things that we see in the environment and the internal things going on inside of us. And that's eye-making. So that's stuff in the environment and the stuff going on inside of us. That's phenomena. And phenomena comes into our awareness through our senses. So sight phenomena, for example, versus sound phenomena or taste phenomena. Sight phenomena comes into our awareness and we identify with it. I am having this vision. I am seeing this. Or I like it. I don't like it. It's mine, or it's that other person's, and I want it. So that's clinging to the eye sense or clinging to visual phenomena. So the direction or the application is to, when sight phenomena comes into our awareness, just watch it arise and pass away. Because if we seek out sight phenomena, or we seek a feeling that comes along with a sight phenomena, that's clinging and craving. And that's going to cause suffering. And that is the birth of anatta. So the ego self, or anatta, arises at the senses. Fabrication arises at the senses. We see something, and then that's our opportunity to identify with it. So that's where, at the sense gates, that's where the story of suffering starts. And that's what he's talking about in this part where he says, tactile sensations known from the body, agreeable, pleasing, enticing, enchanting, are linked to sensual desire. So back to the Buddha's words. Any contemplative, any Brahmin, any seeker who clings to sensuality in this manner, infatuated and enchanted with sensuality, without understanding the suffering that follows or the path to cessation, should be known as unfortunate and having met with ruin. They have lost their minds, and the world will have its way with them. It is as if a wild deer were caught in a heap of snares. This deer has met misfortune and ruin. A hunter could do with them what they will. In the same manner, any contemplative, any Brahmin, any seeker who clings to sensuality in this manner, infatuated and enchanted with sensuality, without understanding the suffering that follows or the path to cessation, should be known as unfortunate and having met with ruin. They have lost their minds, and the world will have its way with them. So any seeker who clings to sensuality has met with ruin. Seeking sensuality is suffering. That's craving and clinging. Looking to have certain feelings or thoughts or visions, or looking to reach certain realms in our minds or to achieve certain things. That's all clinging and craving. And being infatuated or enchanted or obsessed with sensuality is suffering. So how do we not seek sensuality? How do we not seek happiness in sounds or things that we see? How do we not see something and identify it as me, myself, and I, or have an internal experience that we are identifying as ourselves? We meditate, and we hold in mind the intention to understand suffering while simultaneously observing our breath arise and pass away, feelings arise and pass away, thoughts arise and pass away, and overall state of mind arise and pass away, because that practice ensures the cessation of fabrications, the cessation of clinging to sense phenomena. Now, know this, friends. Any contemplative, any Brahmin, any seeker who no longer clings to sensuality in this manner, not infatuated or enchanted with sensuality, understanding the suffering that follows in the path to cessation, should be known as fortunate and will not be met with ruin. They have control of their minds, and the world will not have its way with them. It is as if a wild deer avoided a hunter's snares. This deer has not met misfortune and has avoided ruin. A hunter could not do with them what they will. In the same manner, any contemplative, any Brahmin, any seeker who does not cling to sensuality in this manner, is not infatuated or enchanted with sensuality, who understands the suffering that follows and the path to cessation, should be known as fortunate and will not meet with ruin. They have control of their minds, and the world will not have its way with them. It is as if a deer is living carefree in all ways. Why is it carefree? Because it has gone beyond the hunter's range. In the same way, those engaged in the noble search, established in seclusion from sensuality and unskillful mental qualities, enter and remain in the first jhana. This first jhana is experienced as rapture born of the very seclusion. It is accompanied by directed thought and evaluation. They have become lost to Mara, lost to wrong views. Furthermore, those engaged in the noble search enter and remain in the second jhana. The second jhana is experienced as rapture and pleasure born of concentration, free of directed thought and evaluation. With internal assurance, the joy of concentration permeates their entire body. They have become lost to Mara, lost to wrong views. Furthermore, those engaged in the noble search enter and remain in the third jhana, which is equanimous and mindful, a pleasant abiding. With the fading of rapture, this pleasant abiding permeates their entire mind and body. They have become lost to Mara, lost to wrong views. Furthermore, those engaged in the noble search enter and remain in the fourth jhana, which is pure equanimity and mindfulness. Being pure, neither pleasure nor pain is seen. They sit permeated in mind and body with pure, bright awareness. They have become lost to Mara, lost to wrong views. And further still, those engaged in the noble search with complete abandonment of self-identification to form, with the fading of aversion, with the cessation of craving here and there, they enter and remain in the dimension of infinite space. They have become lost to Mara, lost to wrong views. And further still, those engaged in the noble search with complete abandonment of the dimension of infinite space, they enter and remain in the dimension of infinite consciousness. They have become lost to Mara, lost to wrong views. And further still, those engaged in the noble search with complete abandonment of the dimension of infinite consciousness, they enter and remain in the dimension of nothingness, knowing there is nothing. They have become lost to Mara, lost to wrong views. And further still, those engaged in the noble search with complete abandonment of the dimension of nothingness, motorcycles, they enter and remain in the dimension of neither perception nor non-perception. They have become lost to Mara, lost to wrong views. And further still, those engaged in the noble search with complete abandonment of the dimension of neither perception nor non-perception, they enter and remain in the cessation of perception and feeling. Free of reaction, knowledge and wisdom well established, greed, aversion, and delusion are completely overcome. They have become lost to Mara, lost to wrong views. Having engaged in the noble search, they are unattached to anything in the world. They are as carefree as a deer far removed from a hunter's range. Why are they as carefree as a deer far removed from a hunter's range? Because they have completed the noble search and through their own right efforts, gone beyond Mara's reach. They have gone beyond the reach of ignorance. Those who have engaged in the noble search, who have completed the path, are said to be rightly self-awakened. This is what the great teacher said. The group of five were delighted in hearing these words. That's the end of the sutta. And I just have a couple more things to say. In the last part, he's referring to and he's talking about deepening meditation. So the different jhanas or deepening levels of meditation. And what's important there is that as we meditate, as our concentration increases, as we're able to hold in mind the breath arising and passing away, feelings arising and passing away, thoughts arising and passing away, overall state of mind arising and passing away, and unbinding, fabrications fall away. The landscape of the mind changes. And what's left is more fabrications, other fabrications that can distract us. Ooh, I'm in the dimension of infinite space. This is awesome. But understand that that is also fabrication. So it is just really important to just continue to hold in mind unbinding, because that's what the Buddha did. And so just my quick 3, 2, 1 review of what we can apply. Do jhana, observe the breath arise and pass away, observe feelings arise and pass away, observe thoughts arise and pass away, observe the overall quality of mind arise and pass away, and hold in mind the intention to experience unbinding and just notice it. So not in a clinging, grasping, trying to get there kind of a way, just in a noticing kind of a way. If you experience, just notice if you experience resolution of fabrication or disenchantment or dispassion or cessation or stilling or direct knowledge or the first jhana or the second jhana or the third jhana or the dimension of infinite space or dimension of infinite consciousness, whatever. Just notice it and continue to hold in mind unbinding. That is seeking what is free of stress. and that is True Refuge. And I guess we can go around the room. 1041. So that's, hold on, let me myself into, there we go. So yeah, I mean, there's a lot in there, and I think I just tried to pull out like a thread that sort of went along with what we're doing in this retreat. So if you, Kevin, if you,
I'm holding on to that thread till this afternoon.
oh, good. So if you noticed something else from the sutta that you kind of pulled out of it, or if you have a question, or, please feel free to comment, say whatever, but also don't feel as though you have to say anything. If you feel like you just need to like let it all kind of work on you, that's fine too. Oh, look who's number one in my screen. It's John. You not want to go first? Are you going to tell me you're not going first?
You're running you are running the room, so I have to go first. I don't even have a choice. Jen, it really was just outstanding. Your nuancing out of this sutta is really remarkable. The depth of wisdom that you have, it really is remarkable. I so enjoy being taught by you. There's so many significant underlying themes in this, but I think the most significant is the progression where the Buddha is studying with Alara Kalama and Udeka Ramaputta. They are the foremost so-called spiritual teachers of his time. Siddhartha masters their teaching and realizes that creating the establishment of self in a speculative, fabricated realm does nothing for leading to his understanding, which is what he says next. This is what I wanted to do with my search. My search for true refuge is understanding the world I live in. It's not escaping the world in some fabricated way. And that's such a significant theme throughout the Buddha's Dhamma and throughout this sutta. And he addresses it in so many ways. And you were able to bring out just that point. And it probably is no more central point to the Buddha's Dhamma than to stop fooling ourselves by our own fabricated way of looking at ourselves in relation to the world. And so the idea of the realm of infinite consciousness, or the realm of perception or non-perception, there is a kind of flowery terms and can almost sound like, wow, I'd like to go there, until we understand it's just a fabricated state that I've created in my own mind. There's no reality to it except the reality that I gave it. But that points to, I have to understand this or I don't realize what I'm doing to myself.
Right.
You brought that up wonderfully. Thank you, Jen.
Thank you, John. Well, you helped a lot because we were talking about it quite a bit.
Yeah. But again, Jen, you get it and you get it and you can teach it. That really is two different things, and it's remarkable. So
thank you, John.
The other thing I want to say, that I can't stop talking, especially when I couldn't for an hour. Well, I notice this in myself when I'm teaching, that, and this is probably going to sound as arrogant as anything could possibly sound, but that these are the Buddha's words that I'm saying, not my words. Right. And I hear the same thing. You have your own nuanced way, but I'm sitting here listening 2,600 years later to the Buddha's words. Oh. And it's because of your authenticity to the Dhamma that comes through. And that's so important as a Dhamma teacher, but as a Dhamma student, that's what we're hearing. So again, another bow for you.
Thank you, John. Thank you. Ram, you're next.
No. Am I on?
Again, you can take noble silence too. Please don't feel like anybody that they have to talk. But yeah. I'd love to hear from you, Ram.
That's okay. This is a huge sutta, and to bring it out with a consistent thread in it is, that's heroic.
Oh, thank you.
Just great stuff. Yeah, because it's easy to get lost in the details here, really easy. And you kept pulling it together and you kept steering the course here. Thank you.
Kevin.
Thank you for doing such a great job and really just keeping it so focused and into the Dhamma. I really appreciate how you just kept our focus and taught it so well. So thank you, and thank you for providing the continuity for True Refuge and the rest of the retreat.
I just want to say that all of the teachers here have totally helped me chew through this and had many conversations with me over it. So thank you all for the help in preparing.
That goes both ways too.
Yeah, it goes 5 ways here. If I have just a request, I would like to hear from Becky.
Oh, yeah.
Becky, how was that being taught by your daughter?
Let me unmute. Okay. Well, it was something that makes me very, very proud. Thanks, John, for calling on me. Now, it makes me very, very proud because she brought me to this Sangha through her understanding of me and through her compassion. And I'm just so proud that and so thankful that she found her way like she did and became the woman that she has become. And she's just a marvelous teacher. And I've really, and she taught me today, one thing you taught me, Jen, today is that I've never been doing, and that I realize I have to do, is hold in mind unbinding. Think about unbinding when you're meditating. For some reason, that just never was crystallized for me, and now it was. But I can just say that she has great talent, and I think teaching is a talent, and John certainly has it. But it's a talent to know how what you're saying is going to fall on the ears of your students, and put them, and you take yourself out of it. And that's what Jen does. And if I can just say, her father taught her that.
Mm-hmm.
I did not.
But also I'm really good at reading a story because it's like a little dramatic.
Oh, yeah, you got a little, yeah.
And you guys don't know she's an actress.
I saw that.
So I learned that from Mama.
Yeah. I noticed your delivery. It was excellent. Yeah. And I noticed that, and that was great.
All right.
Thank you, John, for allowing me to be taught in a formal way by my daughter for the first time.
Thank you, Mom.
You're welcome, sweetie.
Jean. Hi. I was so worried I was going to call you Eileen because that's
that's my work name. This is the real me. your understanding of and your commitment to the Dhamma was so evident. I mean, in the tenor of your voice and your body language, and I mean, it just pulses through you. I thought it was really appropriate that you did this sutta because you are a teacher, and it was almost like why you want to become a teacher. In fact, he's talking
Right.
about the monks, and he hasn't had to tell them so many times, but that's what teachers do. I mean, you have to work through it, and it was even more meaningful for me to watch your mom.
Oh.
As I'm listening to you, I'm looking at her face, and it was awesome. So thank you.
Oh, thank you for saying that. Thank you. You guys are sweet. Trevor.
Yeah, thank you so much, Jen. I also really appreciate and enjoyed your teaching style. Incredibly clear, and yeah, appreciate the pace and how you summarize and point out so many important pieces and threads in this long sutta. So thank you. Yeah, I was just struck by a couple of things. Not necessarily seeking answers, but just kind of interesting going through the sutta. One is post-awakened state. As you're talking about the Buddha's decision process of whether to teach, and it was really fascinating to see what looked like eye-making and some clinging, and then eventually in the same language, this will be tiresome, troubling, goes through the process of dropping, clinging. They will or they won't accept my teaching, and then therefore it won't be tiresome or troubling.
Yep.
So I found that really interesting, because sometimes I think of awakened as you never have to go through that process. But it sounds like it sounded like in this story an ongoing process. And then the other piece that's just kind of rattling around my brain at the moment is really wanting to understand the unborn, and what's meant by that, and how it's different from nothingness. So those are just some pieces that are surfacing for me, and this was incredibly helpful. Thank you so much, Jen.
Oh,
I
good.
could tell you really poured your heart and energy into your preparation, and it really bore fruit. Thank you for that.
You picked out one little part that I actually got stuck on when he was talking about troublesome, tiresome. When I first read that, I thought that it was eye making, and then I kind of realized that I was reading it as eye making, because I still eye make. And so as I read it a few more times, I just realized it was just that he was seeing clearly. I mean, you can still think about what your future or past may look like if you're awakened. You just don't get worked up about it. So.
Yeah, and if I could add to that.
Yeah, go ahead, John.
In that, relating to the unborn and what it means, in that same sequence, the Buddha mentions that there's nothing left within him to provoke another moment, and they both relate to the same thing. The Buddha's not talking about now having developed a mind that is able to give birth to something in a physical way. There's nothing left inside him. There's no ignorance left to give birth. So the unborn refers to a pure mind, an awakened mind. There's nothing left within that mind to give birth to another moment in ignorance. That's what the unborn mean. There's nothing, as with all of the Buddhist Dhamma, there's nothing magical or mystical, and it's entirely practical. And to see the practicality, you have to see it in the context. But it's an important point to bring up, Trevor. It's that. Even the nature of this particular sutta, especially the way that Jen developed it, even I would say exposed it, that it is a practical experience. It's not about any fabricated dimensions of this or that. It's about understanding. That's it. That's what the Buddha's Dhamma is. That's how he describes an awakened human being, from the point of view of right view, of having that profound understanding of Four Noble Truths. So great. All right, Jen.
John. Josh. Hi. Oh, you have to unmute yourself, or John has to unmute you.
Who are you calling on?
There we go. We got it.
Am I unmuted?
You're good. We can
There
hear
you
you.
go.
Nice to meet you.
Nice to hear you. It was wonderful. And I'm just going to listen. Thank you.
Thank you. I'm glad you're here. Lorna. Hi.
Hello, Jen.
Oh, I'm so glad you're here.
Many congratulations.
Thank
It
you.
was just absolutely wonderful.
Oh, thank you. Thank you.
I hope that the best way I can compliment you is that I never looked away from the screen. My mind never wandered. I was completely engulfed in the thoughts and the following the story that you were portraying.
Oh, thank you.
I hope that I can say it was great, it was beautiful, and all those adjectives. I want to tell you it's more than that. I want to tell you it was so gripping and so informative. You know, it was just great.
Thank you, Laura. Thank you so much for you.
Just to go on a little bit, you've mentioned a lot, or you emphasize meditation and how important it is to meditate. It is. It's difficult. You don't always want to do it. You want to stay in your own thoughts, but you have to do it. It's part of the practice. And just let me indulge myself about, I once was meditating. I know it's all in your mind and imagination, you're not to get hooked on these things, but I once realized that in meditation that I got to the point that if you're an artist and you have a blank piece of canvas in front of you, I know as an artist, if you're drawing a scene on outside, the first thing you do is kind of you're roughly drawing the horizon. And from that, then you have your foreground and your background and the sky and one thing another. Just that little faint line that you draw, then the expectations start. Then the rules in your head, like making a foreground, making a background, it's only a blank piece of paper, which is nothing. Even as I say, just drawing a faint line, then the decisions start, and that's what we start relating to. And I kind of got that one time, or sometimes I kind of can see that the blankness is the opening, is the unbinding, and all that stuff. So you were just mentioning that you referred to meditation a lot. I just thought I'd say that. So anyway, thank you very much for this morning. It's been great.
Thank you so much, Laura. That really means a lot. Really, really means a lot to me coming from you. And I love your metaphor of that's anything that helps us to visualize what it is that the Buddha is portraying, that the line, as soon as you draw the line, then all the fabrication starts around it. And I need to do this with the line, and I need to do that with the line. And now, because I drew that line, and there's that orientation of me and something that's happening on my canvas. So that's awesome. Thank you. Mike. Hi.
Hi, Jen. How are you?
Good. How are you?
That was a beautiful job you had done, and for such a long, sutta. Julia and I had read this last night, and we had gone over different parts of it. But again, so it was a very long sutta, but it was the way you presented it extremely captivating all the way through. It made the pages go by quickly. it just seemed like an effortless presentation, and so well developed. Very impressed by the way you presented it. And I also like the way that you, from the very beginning, you took control of this. Obviously, you have found your voice that you were seeking some time ago, but and also you commanded the room, okay? And the way you commanded is right from get-go when we started meditation, made 10-minute callbacks instead of 5-minute callbacks, which is, I know it's a subtle thing, but like, I like that, you know, and I like the 10 minutes. It worked well for me anyhow.
That was actually established. We did that. We did that on retreat. So that was not.
Oh, okay.
You can take credit for that.
Okay. As I said, just the fact that you applied it, it just seemed like, you know, it worked for us anyhow, just to mention that. Also, like, I'll just make a quick mention of a thing of two, like the eye making that you had referred to, that maybe the Buddha was talking about. I came across that, you know, we came across that also when we're thinking that, like, is this arrogance, you know, and, you know, easily, you know, funny. Hey, you know, I'm the best Buddha in the land, you know, who's gonna, you know, not listen to me, you know, that's the way it was coming across. But then, like, I realized that, like, there was, like, there's conviction there in knowing that what, you know, in having full confidence in knowing and to discern the truth of who you are, there's conviction there, you know, and that conviction comes across maybe, well, it's confidence, but it's grounded in discernment of knowing who you are. So that's the way I kind of like interpreted that, but I did have the initial, as it was brought up again, I did have that initial, or Julie and I did, is like, it did sound a bit like arrogance, but I think conviction is more like it. And the last thing I'd like to say, is the fact, and Julie and I had spoken about this too, is you continually came back to the unbinding, okay? And I know it's been mentioned, I think that's really a really good point you brought up, because just to keep that thought in mind, why are we here and what are we doing here? You know, to eventually, you know, reach that unborn state, where, and that, so we will experience that unbinding, and the cessation of stress and suffering. So I just want to say thank you again so much for a wonderful presentation, and again, captivating, and couldn't be happier with the way it came.
Thank you, Mike. That's really sweet. It means a lot.
Thank you so much.
So hi. So before, I just wanted to say one thing about something that you said, Mike, that during meditation, we want to hold in mind the entire Eightfold Path, which just can kind of seem overwhelming. And so my thought for kind of continuing to come back to that idea of holding in mind unbinding was, I mean, mainly because the Buddha did it through the whole sutta, but also because it highlights right intention. So it's an intention to unbind. So I just wanted to kind of make that distinction, that we're holding in mind the intention to unbind. And that is keeping us focused, so that as fabrications fall away, we continue to proceed in jhana.
Yes. And the intention is played out every time we recognize we're caught up on our thoughts and come back to our breath. The act of coming back to our breath is an act of unbinding. And it's the ultimate act. We're unbinding from that continual story that is reinforcing wrong view. So that's a specific application of it.
Thank you. Thank you.
Julia.
Hi, Jen. Thank you so much for the beautiful presentation that you gave. I like how you read and chunked the material, like translate, you know, gave us your own translation of it. in different chunks, because it kept me following with the sutta. This was such a comprehensive sutta. It was difficult and a lot of information. The way you read it, also your presentation, made me feel like I was actually walking with the Buddha, and that I could experience his thoughts on how he was experiencing, going through the process of becoming awakened. And I really enjoyed the whole thing. And I really liked how you also gave us that one key word of unbinding, because I needed that.
The nuggets.
Yeah, I needed that thread in there, because last night when I was reading it, it is very overwhelming to read. And you need what is the main idea here? What is the main thing? And it's perfect. I loved it. Thank you. And such a beautiful job, such a beautiful presentation. I really appreciate it.
Thank you.
Thank you. Thank you so much.
Yeah, you're a teacher too, so you understand the
Yeah.
theme is really helpful to kind of keep our minds focused on little nuggets. So
Yes, perfect.
Matt, my friend. Whoop, I'm nervous.
Hey.
I hear what you're going to say. Ooh.
Amazing. Really incredible job. I'm really proud of you and how you teach. It's very strong. It's very clear. It's really a joy to behold. I'm very happy right now. One cool thing that I took away from that, and I think it's going to come up in both Kevin's sutta and certainly in my sutta and Ram's as well, that idea of ignoble searching. And ignoble searching is seeking pleasure in what is inherently stressful. So seeking pleasure in what is subject to birth, aging, sickness, and death. So seeking pleasure in what is impermanent. So I think that's a very key feature and key thread that's going to run through the next suttas, Kevin's, myself's, and Ram's, and John's as well. So I think you did a really great job of illustrating that, and it was just such a joy to take refuge in the Dhamma with you.
Thank you. I'm glad you're here, and I'm glad that I learned from you so that you can learn from me. Karen, hi. You have to unmute yourself. Oh, I still can't hear you.
Okay, am I there?
There. Hi.
Oh my gosh, it was so wonderful to hear you, Jen. It was like listening to a really good story. It was just so clear, and I agree with someone who said that it was like you were walking with the Buddha on his trail. So it was captivating, and it was very very clear, very motivating, very inspiring for me, and just loved it. Just loved it. Thank you so much.
Thank you. Well, I'm relieved. David, are you there?
I am here.
Hi.
Hi.
It's so nice to hear your voice.
Thank you for becoming our teacher. I knew you would do well, and of course, you did. One thing, as I was listening to the beginning and the ignoble search, you see the world, this country, full of moral warriors, and they're seeking their own justice and their own goals, and it may be noble in their mind, but because it's not based on the Four Noble Truths, it's just, you're looking for those few with a speck of dust. And certainly you and the 4 other teachers are helping us, and I appreciate it. Thank you.
Thank you, David. I'm glad you guys are here. Is Mary there? Or she had to take off, looks like?
Her phone's dead, so she's hooking up again.
Oh, okay. She is, I think I've heard from everybody else. So we're just waiting on Mary. You think she's coming back?
Yeah, she was trying to get her phone going.
Well, maybe she needs to get let in.
No, there's nobody in the waiting room yet.
No.
Hold on. Here she is. She says she's my phone.
Okay.
Hi, dear.
Hi, Jen.
Hi.
My sister friend. Did a great job.
Sister.
And not often are you to Quentin Tarantino in a discussion, but that too has a process and I'm what he does, so it's very good. Like many other people, the unbinding was really helpful. Somehow I heard the ignoble search component a little differently and resonated with me. And you know, there is just so much in here, and you broke it down into understandable chunks. That's a beautiful thing about the Buddha, is its simplicity, practicality. Yeah, there's a lot to think about here. So thank you so much. What a great job, Jen. I'm very proud.
Thank you, Mary.
Thank you.
Okay, well, do we want to do the Karaniya Metta Sutta, John?
Hey, let me just say then, we'll see you all back here around 2:15. Continue to maintain the framework of the Eightfold Path for your moment-by-moment life. And Jen, it was really just outstanding. It truly was an auspicious morning.
Thank you, everyone. That was very, very sweet, very supportive. I feel much calmer now. Thank you so much. So I guess I don't know if I don't have the Karaniya Metta Sutta. Hold on. I'll just read it.
Do you have it, Jen, or do you want me to read it?
I think I have it.
Okay.
No, I don't have it. Sorry, John. Can you read it? Would you mind?
I don't mind at all. I just have to find it.
I could probably find it on your website.
No, I got it. It just take me a minute. Wait a minute. How come that's not working? I got it.
All right, cool. Thank you so much.
Well, someone's trying to get in. Let Mary back in. Everybody can hear me? Okay, so just take a moment to become mindful of your in-breath and your out-breath. And let that mindfulness of your breath unite your mind and your body. And these are the Buddha's words on metta from the Karaniya Metta Sutta. This is what should be done by one who is skilled in goodness and who knows the path of peace. Let them be able and upright, straightforward and gentle in speech, humble and not conceited, contented and easily satisfied, unburdened with duties and frugal in their ways, peaceful and calm and wise and skillful, not proud or demanding in nature. Let them not do the slightest thing that the wise would later reprove. Wishing in gladness and in safety, may all beings be at ease. Whatever living beings there may be, whether they are weak or strong, omitting none, the great or the mighty, medium, short, or small, the seen and the unseen, those living near and far away, those born and to be born, may all beings be at ease. Let none deceive another or despise any being in any state. Let none through anger or ill will wish harm upon another. Even as a mother protects with her life her child, her only child, so with a boundless heart should one cherish all living beings. Radiating kindness over the entire world, spreading upwards to the skies and downwards to the depths, outwards and unbounded, freed from hatred and ill will. Whether standing or walking, seated or lying down, free from drowsiness, one should sustain this recollection. This is said to be the sublime abiding. By not holding to fixed views, the pure-hearted one, having clarity of vision, being freed from all sense desires, is not born again into this world. Thank you all for a wonderful session. Peace.
Thank you, everybody.
I'll see you all about 2:15.
See you then. Great start
Bye.
to the day. Thank you.